This is Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app. Now, live from the Matt Black Kia Studios.
Oh, what an attack! Whoa, what a move!
Here's Josh Hennig.
I am Josh Hennig. Game Night 10 minutes early tonight as the Flyers get a huge win. They go up 3-1, back-to-back shutouts for the one and only Carter Hart. Huge hockey game. We finally saw a little bit more offense. Still some concerned about the power plays. We'll get to all of that and more right now with Kevin Durso, our 97.3 ESPN.com Flyers Insider, covering the Flyers in the NHL all season long. I'm sure he'll have a post-game review in about an hour, but he's first joining me here on the Boardwalk Kind of Hotline here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. Kevin, got to start with Carter Hart because this guy, 2 straight shutouts. He's the first player under 23 to have back-to-back shutouts in the postseason since Felix Potvin. So we're talking about something that hasn't happened in a long time, and in many ways it only cements the reason why this guy is so special.
Yeah, it really does. He's just been so impressive throughout this series. I mean, you know, we made such a big deal out of the Carey Price, Carter Hart dynamic of this series, and to this point, you got to give him all the credit in the world. He's outplaying Carey Price, and Carey Price is playing pretty darn well so far in this series too, but he's outplaying him, and that says a whole lot.
I was very encouraged by the first goal, Kevin, because it felt like in the first period, the Flyers were being aggressive on offense, something they haven't been consistently in this series. And that shot from Raffl, while on one hand, it was a great shot. It was a great goal. But on the second part, it gets back to that old hockey concept of just throw the puck on the net because you never know what's going to happen.
Yeah, you kind of got that from both of the goals the Flyers scored today. I think the first one by Raffl, one of the things about that goal is that, you know, you can, we've talked about shot volume and traffic at the net with Carey Price, and that's how you beat him. You can beat him without the traffic if you can take a perfect shot, and that's what Raffl did. I mean, that's picking the corner, and the only way he's going to stop that shot is if he somehow gets the shaft of the stick on that shot. There's nothing else that he can do to try to stop that one. And then even the other goal in the game by Phil Myers, you know, they haven't had the shot volume that you'd like to see in this series. Again, just 22 shots today for the Flyers, but if you take enough shots on them, there's always that possibility that one of them that looks harmless enough finds the back of the net because he misplays it in some way. It's a rare occasion with Carey Price, but that was exactly what happened there. It looks like a shot that's going wide, actually, and he tries to play it off the blocker to direct it, I guess, and it goes off the inside of his arm and into the back of the net. And it's a surprising goal, but it's one that you take because it gives you that separation. You know, playing with a 2-0 lead is very different than playing with a 1-0 lead throughout, as we saw with the Game 3 win. And now you've got yourself set up in this series where you're in command. I mean, you've definitely been in command when you're the team leading the games, and now you're leading the series pretty commanding fashion as well, 3-1. So that's you know, again, it's I think follow the same method. You keep taking those kind of shots. Don't look for the perfect play all the time. I think if you just take the shot, you've got a shot to beat Carey Price, and that's what they've done on occasion here. Not nearly as much as I think people would have thought, but it's been enough, and I think that says a lot not only about the way that the team is playing defensively, but it says a lot about your goaltender as well.
Sticking with the lines, what was your thoughts on what you saw from the changes before the game? No JVR in the lineup. Raffl gets bumped up to the first line. I thought it was interesting. The one line at one point was Giroux, Derek Grant, and Scott Loughton. I mean, I don't think I've ever would have created that even in NHL video games. So just talk about some of the Alain Vigneault shuffling here.
Yeah, he really went back to the drawing board, it looks like, on this one. And, you know, I think the line that probably stayed the closest was the Kevin Hayes line with Travis Konechny on it for most of the afternoon. But for the most part, you know, this was a complete shuffling of lines. Michael Raffl moving up was a big move there because I think he worked well with Sean Couturier in that game. And, you know, putting Giroux down a little bit, I think it's just a way to maybe get him better matchups. I'm not really sure, to be honest with you. I mean, it was kind of a surprise to see that line stay put throughout the whole game. But something worked there in some capacity, and obviously things have been working for the Flyers from a defensive standpoint. They just seem to have total commitment defensively. To me, the line that was probably the most impressive in the game outside of the scoring that happened, it was Nate Thompson's line. Nate Thompson, Connor Bunnaman, Tyler Pitlick. Talk about going to work and doing all the dirty work for your team, winning battles in the corners, blocking shots, sacrificing your body to make the right play. And in that third period especially, they're blocking tough shots. Nate Thompson blocks one on the penalty kill from Shea Weber, which is not a small feat. Robert Haig had one that caught him up high. Honestly, you don't even know how he's still standing after you get hit up high from a shot from Shea Weber. And, that line seemed to really go to work. I really liked Bunnaman's game, too, as a surprise addition to the lineup, all things considered. And I assume that Nick Aube-Kubel was out of the lineup possibly because he's hurting from a couple of block shots in Game 3. But his addition into the lineup, Bunnaman looked really good in that role. I think the style of Montreal really fits his game. He's that go-to-work, hard-working type of player, willing to go into the dirty areas to do a lot of things. When he would score goals in the minor leagues, he scored a lot of his goals around the net, so he's willing to take the physical side of the game and put his body on the line to make plays. I think you saw a lot of that there too. So I really think that line is the big standout to me because they did a lot of the dirty work and allowed a couple of goals to stand up for you.
Kevin Durso joining us here on Game Night, Flyers post-game edition right here on 97.3 ESPN. Follow Kevin on Twitter for your Flyers and NHL coverage at Kevin_Durso. Also, Kevin, another thing I noticed was, Myers, that's another goal for him since his return from the pandemic. And I feel like this is a guy who people don't really think a lot of him. He wasn't really on the team at the beginning of the year. I remember that he was one of the guys mentioned in that the NHL Network, what was it, Behind the Glass documentary before the season. But he wasn't really highlighted like some of the other guys were. Where did this guy come from, and how has he become such an integral part of this defensive unit?
That's a great question. Where did this guy come from? Because it's shocking sometimes when you watch him play that he was an undrafted free agent. He's been really solid, and he's done it throughout the year, but I think it's really been on full display in the playoffs. I think you're really seeing his full potential here. That pairing has been probably the most consistent that the Flyers have had in this series, I think. Even in Game 1, I didn't think Matt Niskanen had the strongest game, and he's improved as the series is going on. But this is the pairing that I think has just been the most consistent throughout the series. And, a couple of guys on the team have talked about how they're hard to play against when they even go up against them in practice. And that says a lot about how hard they're willing to work to keep these spots in the lineup. They feel like they've still got something to prove, both Travis Sanheim and Phil Myers. And Myers is showing off some greater potential here, not just in his defensive abilities, and he does a lot of the things that you want to see your defenseman do in terms of defensive zone play. He blocks shots. He does get physical, but he's got the ability. He's a really strong skater, and he can jump up on the play. And you've seen it a couple times now in these playoffs where he gets up on the play, is willing to take a shot, has got a good shot. And obviously it's a deceptive one, I should say. It can be deceptive because he's gotten 2 goals just off the rush, not trying to do anything too complicated. He just has a really good shot. And that's the impressive part of his game from the offensive side. But defensively, he's been excellent as well, really well positioned. I think last year, as he was trying to break into the lineup, he had moments where he would just have defensive lapses and it wouldn't look very good. He's been so much better. He's probably been one of the most improved players the Flyers have had this season.
Speaking of the defense, Carter Hart, as we mentioned earlier, consecutive shutouts in the postseason. Now he has stopped. He stopped 29 today. He stopped 23 in the last game. You're talking about a guy who let in a bunch of goals previously, and you and I talked about this previously. Not all those goals were his fault. A good chunk of them were not his fault at all. And he has responded beyond anyone's expectations. What is it about what you saw from Carter Hart these last 2 shutouts? Is there something about how he's positioning himself, how focused he is? What has it been in your eyes that stood out to you the most?
I think all of the above. His positioning is outstanding, and it really shows on, it's happened twice now, 2 games in a row. This in Game 4, it happened much earlier than in Game 3. Game 3, it was one of the final shots that Montreal had. trying to get some offensive zone pressure in the final minute of the game, and Ivan Provorov tries to clear the puck and hits a shin pad, and next thing you know, it's behind him, and Jesperi Kotkaniemi has a chance to tie the game when it was 1-0, obviously, and Hart's right there, right in position, and swallows it up, makes the save, and it looks like no big deal at the end. He had another one of those while it's still 2-0, and you still have that lead to protect. There's still a little bit of a separation as opposed to protecting a 1-0 lead, but it's a dangerous point in the game. One goal for Montreal, and it could be a game changer. It could get them rolling, and you're definitely going to be facing a lot more pressure if they feel good about themselves in the final 5 minutes. And there he is again, just to make another big save and make it look like it's nothing. His poise is beyond his years. He very much looks like Carey Price. He plays the game in the same style, and there was one shot somewhere in the third period, and it wasn't anything that looked overly harmful. I think it was a shot from the top of the right circle, and he has no traffic in front of him. But you sit there and you look at that and you go, if there's no traffic in front of him and he sees it the whole way, he's probably going to stop it. 99% of the time, he's going to stop that shot because he knows how to position himself. You've really got to get into his kitchen there with a lot of bodies and a lot of chaos going on in front of him to really make him feel uncomfortable. And that's the thing about it. He doesn't flinch at anything, and he was frustrated after that Game 2 loss, even though he probably didn't deserve a lot of the criticism. It wasn't his fault that they lost that game the way they did, but he shoulders a lot of the blame, even if it's not his fault, and he just looks to bounce back. And I think you've seen 2 games now from him where you see exactly what you can expect from him. It's really ironic, too, that he's got back-to-back shutouts right now in the playoffs. This is, I think, his 6th playoff start total, and it took him multiple starts. I think it took him almost 25, 26, 27 starts in the NHL regular season-wise to get his first shutout, and he only has 1 so far in his career in the regular season. He played 6 playoff games, and he's got 2 shutouts. It's incredible.
Kevin Durso joining us here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. Flyers post-game edition. Flyers win 2-0 thanks to consecutive shutouts by Carter Hart, also goals by Michael Raffl and Philip Myers. Let's talk about the face-offs as well. I thought that was a huge part of the game today where they won 65% of their face-offs, and it felt like more than that, honestly, Kevin, watching the game. It seemed like almost every time the Flyers walked up to that face-off circle, it was like they were going to win, and it was almost like a fait accompli by the end of the game.
Yeah, and I think after the first period, it was something like 72% or something like that. It was an outrageous number in the first period, and just looking at some of the numbers now, Sean Couturier was nearly 74% on faceoffs, and Claude Giroux was just below 72%. He was at 71.4%. Those are outstanding numbers, and those are the top 2 guys in faceoffs on the team. And this is typically what the Flyers do when it comes to faceoffs. They're really good at faceoffs, and Montreal was finding a way to keep up in that area. Actually, they had kept that margin much closer. This was probably as lopsided as it's been in the entire series. This is one of the things that they do really well. I especially like the number of offensive zone faceoffs I saw them win in this game. It doesn't necessarily mean that it solves all your problems on special teams or anything like that, but that's a good way to get started, is to win the faceoff and get possession. And they did that a lot more often in this game than they had in any other game in the series so far. So that was definitely a positive sign. And it can help jumpstart you on a lot of fronts. It can help you in the power play department where you can gain control a little bit better and maybe get set up. It can help you on the penalty kill to get a quick clear off of a face-off. It can help you scoring goals. The Flyers scored their 1 goal in Game 3 in the first period off of a face-off win. That can help in so many ways, and to see them winning at this rate is really encouraging.
We do have to talk about the one negative from the game. I believe the Flyers are combined now between all of the games, the round-robin games, and then these 3 games as they now lead 4 games. Now they lead 3-1 in the series. I believe they're now, 1 in 27 on power plays?
It's 1 for 28, actually. They got one more late one at the end of that game, at today's game, on a delay of game penalty by Montreal. And I actually thought their power play was better today than it's been in most of the series, just because they started to generate more opportunities. one of the one in the third period where it looked like if you score another goal, you're probably putting the game away. They had two really good scoring chances. It's a shame Joel Farabee didn't really get a lot on the chance that came right back out into the slot, and he was there. And he didn't get much of that one. Travis Konechny hit the post again with one of his shot chances. And I think the frustrating part is that on that last power play they had, they get open space. Claude Giroux has a lot of space in front of him and chooses to not take the shot and dish the pass across. And you shouldn't do that in that spot. He's got to take the shot there. And I don't know why he's not thinking shoot first, but he didn't. And that's part of your problem, is that you need to take more shots. You've got the shot opportunity there. They've been so hard to come by in this series that you need to take them when they're available. And nonetheless, there was better puck movement, there was better puck possession, and those things can help equate to two power play goals. It's not going to look good to see 0 for 3 on the power play again in another box score, but at least there was more in terms of the execution there. There wasn't a finish, but there was more in terms of the execution. Two of them, they nearly looked like they scored. So that at least was much more encouraging than the dump and chase and very limited offensive zone time when you're on the power play. They still need to be able to take advantage of these opportunities. This is working against Montreal because you're doing so much to lock them down from getting into your own zone at 5-on-5 and during their special teams time. But other teams are not going to other teams are going to make you pay for the lack of execution on the power play and the lack of finishing on the power play. So it does still need to be improved, but there were some things that I saw that at least show that there was something that was better from this game's power play than Game 3, Game 2, and Game 1 in the series.
Quick turnaround tomorrow, Kevin. Obviously, the game is tomorrow night, so it's roughly about a 26-hour gap between the end of one game and the start of another, actually like 27 hours. But the point is that it's a short turnaround. So what do you expect to be the concerns and the keys for the game tomorrow, considering you have a quick turnaround, not just for the players who won, but also the team that lost?
Well, I guess I want to start in terms of talking about tomorrow's game because Hunter Brody texted me and asked who I go with in goal tomorrow. And I don't think there's a question about this anymore. It's the guy who's got back-to-back shutouts. You've got to go back to him now. You've got to ride the hot goalie here and try to finish this series off. He's been so poised and so sharp in goal that you've got to let him try to finish this job himself, and I wouldn't change a thing about that. I guess that the first worry is that you can't rely on him as much, though. You want to do your best to protect him as much as possible. You definitely can't let Montreal have chances off the rush, and you can't let them have a lot of open space because I think that they will burn you this time around just because it's such a quick turnaround. The other thing you got to do that I think is an absolute key is you've got to take shots on Carey Price. Carey Price is not a very good goalie in terms of back-to-backs this year. He did not have great numbers at all. I think his goals against was somewhere in the 380 range. So if he's got a 3.8 something goals against average in the second half of a back-to-back when he starts both ends, that to me means you've got to pepper him with shots and you've got to try to keep getting more shot volume, more traffic in on him. Otherwise, just keep playing your game because this team seems to be keeping Montreal in check when they're attacking on the forecheck, when they're clogging up the neutral zone. It's a boring brand of hockey, but it's what works against Montreal. And so far, you have played two games very well doing that helped you get command of this series to this point. You can finish it off if you play one more game like that. And I think the challenge in doing it in a back-to-back situation is that there's probably room for more lapses to come. There's going to be a little bit more. The first period of this game, I thought, was the first time in the series that I really saw some wide-open play from both sides. There was more ice space to be had. There were a few more odd-man rushes than I remember in any other game during the series to this point. And it could look a lot like that again tomorrow in Game 5, knowing that these players are playing in a back-to-back situation. So I think that that's the thing to watch out for is space could be much more available given the fact that these guys just played a game now and will play again in just over 24 hours. So I think that says a lot about it, and that's the thing I would watch out for the most in Game 5.
He's Kevin Durso. Follow him on Twitter at Kevin_Durso for all your Flyers coverage on Twitter. Also on the website, 973ESPN.com. He'll have a post-game up probably in the next 30 minutes, knowing Kevin, because he's a hard worker. And, of course, we'll be all over the game tomorrow night as well, right here on 97.3 ESPN as Carter Hart and the Flyers go to finish off the series tomorrow night after today's 2-0 win over the Canadiens. Kevin, appreciate the time, and I'm sure that we'll all be waiting on bated breath for tomorrow night.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Josh. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Kevin. And for those who may not know, Carter Hart now is the third goalie in Flyers franchise history with back-to-back playoff shutouts. The previous two goaltenders, that would be Michael Layton in 2010, that Flyers team that came out of nowhere to go to the Stanley Cup in 2010, and some guy named Bernie Parent back in 1975. So Carter Hart in very good territory when it comes to Flyers history, as the Flyers are now up 3-1 in their series versus the Canadiens. They go to put the shutdown on them tomorrow night right here on 97.3 ESPN. PlaySugarHouse.com text board is open for you, 609-403-0973. Flyers win. They're up 3-1 in the series. What are your thoughts? Also, Sixers lost last night to the Celtics in a game that was pretty embarrassing, honestly, when it comes to the turnovers and things like that. So we'll get into the Sixers as well, what happened with them. Also, we are only here till 6:30, as coming up next on 97.3 ESPN after game night will be Rockets versus Thunder. You hear the action coming up at 6:30 right here on 97.3 ESPN. Again, the PlaySugarHouse.com text board is open for you, 609-403-0973. Get your text in now if you want to get on the conversation. Sixers, Flyers, NBA, and NHL playoffs. The Milwaukee Bucks lost Game 1 to the Orlando Magic today. Huge upset in the NBA playoffs in Game 1. Do we react to that? Do we think it's just a flash in the pan? There's a lot to get to right now, and only a little time to do it. 609-403-0973 for the PlaySugarHouse.com text board right here on 97.3 ESPN.
You're listening to Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app.
Game night here on 97.3 ESPN. Flyers lead the series now 3-1. Back-to-back shutouts by Carter Hart. The Flyers now 1 win away from winning their first playoff series in 8 years. And Flyers coverage here on 97.3 ESPN is being brought to you by PlaySugarHouse.com. Sign up now and they'll match your first deposit up to $250. Go to PlaySugarHouse.com and win real money with their sportsbook, along with casino games from the comfort of your home. Must be 21 in order to play. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Text board is open, 609-403-0973 to get on the conversation. Flyers continue to find ways to win, playing excellent defense. Sixers can't get it out of their own way last night. Phillies are back in action today, if anybody is maybe interested. PlaySugarHouse.com text board is open, 609-403-0973. Game night here until 6:30, leading you up to Rockets, Thunder, Game 1, Harden versus Chris Paul in the NBA playoffs, 609-403-0973. Jim from Ventnor chimes in and says, great job by the Flyers to change up the line, take advantage of Montreal not having Claude Julien there. Got to stay with Hart tomorrow. That's Jim in Ventnor. Listen, Jim, I'm with you, man. You don't bench the hot guy. I don't care that it's a back-to-back. And frankly, it's not like you're traveling for the back-to-back here. It's not like you're dealing with anything that anyone else isn't dealing with. The advantage of the bubble is that what's the thing that's going to get in your way from being able to go out there and perform tomorrow? What is there going on in the bubble that's going to keep them from staying focused or not getting enough rest tonight, just unless that they keep themselves up? You know, the only thing that's going to keep Carter Hart from getting the rest he needs is if he stays up too late playing video games. That's the only thing. Let the hot goalie go out there. I'm with you, Jim Evander. I mean, You got to let this guy go out there and finish the job. He got you to this point. He puts you on the edge of winning a playoff series and getting to the next round. Let him go out there and finish the job. And frankly, if he is your franchise goaltender, if you believe that Carter Hart is the goaltender of the future, if he is the best goaltender in between the pipes of the Flyers since Ron Hextall, and if he is part of that lineage now of Perrant and Lindbergh and Hextall, and then it's Hart, then you got to put him out there. I'm not here to baby the guy. I'm not here to worry about if he's tired. The kid's, 21, 22 years old? He'll be fine. Now, the other thing is you mentioned the text there, Jim, on the text board. Again, PlaySugarHouse.com, text board 609-403-0973. You mentioned changing up the lines. I like the fact that Vigneault is willing to make changes. I think that it's important that he's willing to make changes because it shows you that he's not a slave to one way of doing things. He's not saying, I have to do it this way. It's the only way to do it, blah, blah, blah. No, he's coming out and saying, look, I understand that I have to make changes. I understand that it's going to, maybe make people confused on the outside, but I'm at practice. I see what's going on. I'm trying to ignite a fire under this team. And it did a tiny bit because in the first period, that Raffl goal was because the team was way more aggressive on offense. They were pushing it into the Canadian zone consistently, and then Raffl makes that great goal. The Myers goal was just a guy throwing on net and hoping for the best, and let's be realistic. Sometimes those are the best kind of goals, right? I do have to say, though, that what makes Vigneault different than other sports coaches is how many times we hear about a manager who keeps trotting out there the same batting lineup with the same leadoff hitter, or a basketball coach who keeps trotting out there the same starting lineup no matter what and refuses to make changes, or a football coach who insists on going with certain defensive combinations of players because those are his veterans that got him to this point. The fact that Vigneault is unafraid to make changes is incredible. I love it. PlaySugarHouse.com, text sports 609-403-0973. Tim and Cape May says, I'm taking Bucks in 5 games. So Tim's unswayed by the Orlando Magic with their bizarre upset today of the Milwaukee Bucks. That was the first game on the NBA slate earlier today. I remember turning around. I'm seeing that the Magic are up by 13. I'm thinking, what is going on here? And the more I'm watching the game, the more I hear in the studio, I'm thinking, the Magic really might win this game. And, dude, Vucevic is a monster. 35 points in that game. I mean, he was completely just running roughshod over them on the offensive end. 5 for 8 from 3. I mean, it was insane. By the way, former Sixer Markelle Fultz, 15 points, 6 assists, and a block in the game as well, as the Magic upset the Bucks in Game 1. But Tim and Cape May is not convinced. He says it's going to be Bucks in 5. I don't know if it's going to be Bucks in 5. I think the Bucks still win the series. It might take 6 games, though. Just because of the fact that you have to think about the fact that if you're able to get one game on somebody, you probably can get another one somewhere along the way, right? So I think that maybe it's 6 games. But I'm with you. I think the Bucks are going to win the series. Speaking of Sixers, that game last night for the Sixers was just so embarrassing. It was so embarrassing to watch them keep turning the ball over and over and over and over again. It's so obvious that the Philadelphia 76ers just were not ready for that game at all. The Boston Celtics had 21 points off of 18 Sixers turnovers last night. 21 points off 18 turnovers. Now, think about that for a minute. 21 points. I keep driving it home because the Sixers lost the game 109-101. The Sixers still almost won the game. The Sixers won the first quarter and the third quarter. The Sixers won the first quarter 26-25 and the third quarter 30-20. If you cut those turnovers in half, maybe you end up winning the game. I mean, it was a complete embarrassment how they were turning the ball over as well. I mean, Joel Embiid gets doubled, and he's just fumbling all over himself. He himself had 5 turnovers in the game. Shake Milton and Josh Richardson, your 2 starting guards, combined for 6 turnovers by themselves. The starting lineup of the 18 team turnovers, Al Horford, Tobias Harris, Joel Embiid. I'm actually going to take out Harris because Harris only had 1 turnover, and he did his best. He was trying to keep the team in the game. He was working hard. Horford, Embiid, Richardson, Milton. Those 4 combined for 14 of the team's 18 turnovers. That is utterly unacceptable by a professional basketball team. I think it's long overdue to take Horford out of the starting lineup. I don't care that he had 6 assists. It doesn't matter. The turnovers and his inconsistent play on defense, you got to put him coming off the bench to back up Embiid. You got to put Thibault out there because Thibault's the only guy that gave Jason Tatum any problems in that game yesterday. And I told you all yesterday, right here on Game Night, here on 97.3 ESPN, I told you, you can't let these guys get their points. Tatum had 32, Brown had 29, Walker had 19. And now that with Gordon Hayward out for the rest of the series and possibly maybe even the rest of the month for the Boston Celtics, you take away one of their biggest offensive weapons. Now, you're going to insert Marcus Smart into the lineup, and he's one of their best defensive players, and he's a solid basketball player, but he's not Gordon Hayward offensively. So now you have a chance to make up for the mistakes in the game 1. You can still win this series, but if you don't cut those turnovers in half, and if you don't start Matisse Thybulle, and if the Sixers stop being stubborn, and I'm not going to say it's all Brett Brown, because I know there are a lot of you out there, oh, Brett Brown this, Brett Brown that. I don't know if it's Brett Brown's idea or not. Because in the analytics age we live in, there could be some dude who's running numbers telling them who to start and who to bring into the game as far as I know. And that's what something has been talked about in the Sports Bash with Mike Gill and Hunter Brody about the fact that there apparently are analytics people who tell Brett Brown what to do, that he doesn't really think for himself the majority of the time. He's being given ideas by other people. Well, whoever's idea it was to not start Thybulle game 1, that person better be told to shut up and start Thybulle in game 2. Sixers basketball tomorrow night, right here, 6:30 on 97.3 ESPN. Josh Hennig here on Game Night. Game Night has been brought to you by GMS Law. Make the right call with 4 convenient locations to serve you. Visit them online at gmslaw.com. Coming up next, Rockets versus Thunder right here on 97.3 ESPN. Make sure to tune into the Sports Bash tomorrow. Mike Gill, Sports Bash at 2 o'clock with Hunter Brody. And then I'll be back in here as well, leading you up to Sixers basketball tomorrow night right here on 97.3 ESPN. The following the Sixers will be Flyers trying to close out the series in Game 5. I'm telling you, man, if you don't start Thybulle tomorrow, I got a lot of questions about who's giving who advice in the Sixers organization. Have a great night, everybody. Josh Hennig, Game Night, signing off.